Welcome back to another Spirit Island video. In this video, we are going to be continuing my series talking about changes I would make to spirits as well as talking about spirit problems. This time, we're focusing on Earth. Now, unlike shadows, Earth is one of my favorite spirits. It's a spirit that I do enjoy playing. I try to play it, especially in lower difficulty games. There's something about this spirit that just appeals to me. Maybe it's the derpy face. Maybe it's just because I enjoy playing Plant Earth theme with whatever game I'm playing. The nature theme is typically the route I go with. If I'm playing a tabletop game, I'm always looking at the elves. If I'm playing Magic, I'm playing green. So when I came to Spirit Island, I'm looking for those earth, those plant spirits. Obviously, there's rampant green, but also there's earth, there's keeper. You guys know I've played a ton of roots. So earth, when I first came to the game, I thought it would give off that energy, and it does in a way. But unfortunately, I quickly recognized that earth has some huge weaknesses. And so this video, we're going to be talking about Earth and the aspects here, and really I can combine Earth and resilience into one, I guess, the very first part of this video. So the problems with Earth. So Earth is really good at not dying. You have that special rule that gives you that defend 3 in your sacred sites. You have a skip card with Year of Perfect Stillness. So remember, skip cards are really good. Turns out this is the one skip card in the game that's pretty bad, and we'll talk about that later. You have Guard the Healing Land, which is another defend card that heals Blight. So you have all of these defensive tools, but the problem with the Spirit is you have trouble closing out the game. And you'll notice that all because you can defend a land, you're not actually solving the land down the road. And a lot of adversaries, they push tempo, or the adversary tempo pushes the player to need to clear lands. Otherwise, the player will fall behind in the action economy. Basically, the invaders will accumulate a lot of extra actions, and you won't be able to keep up. Um, so a spirit like Earth is defending land, stopping the blight early game, but then it's hard to actually close the game out. And to contrast that, I'm going to grab Sunbright Whirlwind again just to kind of showcase why Sunbright just does it so much differently, right? Now, obviously, Sunbright is a bit overpowered, but you'll notice every time Sunbright is growing, you're pushing Explorer, which is essentially stopping a build, right? So you're solving actions by growing. While Earth, you are basically setting up these sacred sites just to prevent the blight, but you're not actually even solving the land. Now, it's a minor complaint. If you look at a bunch of the other low complexity spirits like lightning or river or shadows, their special rule isn't actually solving lands like it is for some of the horizons. But that is one of the big problems is that because these sacred sites are defending 3, you're not actually solving the land when you defend it. The second problem is actually Gift of Strength, and that's going to be either your favorite thing about Earth or your least favorite. And what Gift of Strength does, it allows you to repeat a power card based on the energy cost of that card. It's very powerful, and as a result, the developers made the threshold very difficult to reach. So difficult, you pretty much have to play perfect cards to actually reach it, and that's why some people don't like it. Why is that? So if I look at my tracks here, I have 4 card plays, right? But if I want to max out this innate, I need to have 4 earths. That means every card that I play has to have earth. Now, because you also have plant and sun, that means they need to also be duplicates, right? So that means some of those cards need to have plant and some of them need to have sun. So what ends up happening is in order to hit this max tier, you need to play a perfect element card, Sun Earth Plant, 2 Earth Plant cards, and then an Earth Sun card. So pretty much all perfect cards in order to threshold it. And then you're really not even repeating your card because there's a high chance that it's not going to match the elements of your major, because you're playing cards to hit this threshold, and it's unlikely that you hit a major that matches these elements. So this is a big problem, and the developers put a lot of the spirit's power into this special rule, or into this innate, and this innate is difficult to hit. That's another problem. The other problem is it's a combination of targeting plus growths. So Earth needs to generate cards so that it can solve lands because its special rule and its innate aren't solving lands or its cards aren't solving lands. So you need to draft cards, but you're placing presence at zero range to create sacred sites. So what ends up happening is you have very few drafts. Um, just because of the like how you grow out. Otherwise, you're basically stuck in two lands, right? So like Earth, for instance, is starting in with the highest mountain and I think the highest jungle, if I remember correctly. Let's see if I can flip that over. It's highest jungle. Okay, I was correct. Um, so like if I just keep choosing my G2 here, I'm just gonna have just these massive sacred sites in G8 and G7, which is great, but then I'm not actually benefiting my special rule. So there's a lot of like awkwardness with the spirit. Oh, and this is the other thing. So like you need the sacred site targeting for rituals of destruction, which is just extremely a very awkward card. Fun fact though, Rituals is the only unique in the game that has more than four elements. So every other unique in the game is going to have four or less elements. Rituals has five, so that's kind of cool in my opinion. But overall, the card's just pretty awkward. Oh yeah, and then also your uniques are just like below average. Like Seer of Perfect Stillness, it's a like you have a ton of defensive tools, and yes, a skip is awesome on this spirit, but like it costs three energy and it doesn't progress your game. So a lot of times you just kind of you die because you run out of time. And the spirit is just very clunky. It's actually very strong into low diff games, and that's because this defend three goes a long way to preventing lands from really acting up. But into higher diff games, the defend three is actually not even enough to solve ravages, like early ravages, and it just becomes useless as the game progresses. So those are the problems with base Earth. Now resilience changes the special rule, and what it does is it actually it makes this defend essentially defend 8, I believe. So it takes 10 damage to blight instead of 5, which is pretty impactful. But it makes it so that the defense doesn't protect the Han, so you actually just can't get counterattacks with resilience. I do think resilience is just an upgrade over base Earth, but it still has a lot of problems. I found like, and this is so sad, but I found the best way to play resilience is just you YOLO majors. Like you're just and I have videos on the channel playing it, but you just start aggressively digging for majors and then you just go across top track and you're just playing majors just turn after turn and you're just hoping that you're able to solve lands while also taking blight scale, of course, but you're just hoping that you draft the right majors and you win the game like that. And I think that's just a very I think it's a sad way to play the spirit, but that's what I found in solo. A sad way in that like you don't really have a theme. Like you're just frantically drafting cards. You don't really get to play your uniques that often. But yes, like that's how I played Resilience. I know there's some ways where you could you play more towards like a support, more in a multiplayer game, and you try to really leverage Gift of Strength, but it's not very good. Um, Okay, so we talked about resilience. So then there's Might Earth, and this is where the spirit really became exciting for me. So Might also gets rid of this special rule. Basically, the developers recognize that Defend 3 is not really good into higher diff adversaries, and they also recognize that it was very difficult to hit these extra thresholds on the innates. So what they did is they gave Earth a second special rule, and that's Might. And essentially what Might does, it says that if you have a plant, you get to pay an energy, and it gives you +1 card plays. So what happens is this track essentially becomes 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, which is a huge boost. Now, Might still has a lot of problems. Mainly, it's difficult to generate cards. The tracks are a little bit awkward early on. Your cards are awkward, but you have the ability to play more cards early on. So one of the combos that I used to play with Earth is I would play Earth and Starlight a lot because Starlight would give the boon of reimagining to Earth, allowing Earth to kind of cycle cards, and then it allows Earth to kind of shape its hand. And I have videos with that. It's one of my favorite combos in the game. It's very fun to play. And oh yeah, another thing is that Might allows you to play 2 cards turn 1 with Rituals and Fruitful. You can play these 2 cards turn 1, pick this option, go top track, and that gives you a repeat turn 1. So it's the only way that Earth can get this repeat turn 1, but this repeat you can use to repeat draw, but usually you're repeating the best unique at the table, which I pretty much only play Might as long as there's a Starlight, just because that's just how I enjoy playing Might. But I love repeating that Boon of Reimagining. Let me pull that up for players that are unfamiliar with it. Essentially, Boon of Reimagining is a card that says target spirit may forget a power card from hand or discard to draw 6 minors and gains 2 of them. So Starlight can play this card regularly, and then Might gets to play these 2 cards and then can repeat the card and then take that repeat. So essentially, you're not actually stealing anything from Starlight. You're still playing independently, which is pretty cool. And then, of course, the card I love to forget is your Perfect Stillness, just because this card is just so awkward. So that's like the little combo. I have videos on the channel playing it. It's very fun. It's honestly like very similar to the super team that I played with Starlight, Lightning, Downpour, and River. A similar concept, except instead of repeating, instead of having Downpour to repeat it, you have the built-in repeat with Might. Um, so that's Might Earth. Oh yeah, it also gives you +1 damage to damage dealing powers, which is actually pretty cool. And then it has an ability to gain power cards. This is like pretty busted because it allows Earth to enter this reclaim loop and then continue to fish for cards. I'm okay with it. When I say busted, it's like this is not that good of an aspect. Like it boosts Earth up to like a very playable state, but it's not really cracked. It just enables reclaim loops, so maybe they adjust this. But okay, so that's Might, and then Nourishing. So Nourishing also gets rid of Earth's Vitality. It also gets rid of your skip card, and then it's going to give you your Voracious Growth and instead. It also, it says whenever you gain a major power, you also gain a minor power. So that is, it essentially makes your card gaining 2 times every time you draft, which it actually I think is a way to fix Earth, and I'm going to talk about that in 1 second here. Um, but Nourishing allows you to gain multiple cards. Now, really, I don't like Nourishing. It's pretty overpowered. You'll see in my tier list that it's quite high up on it. And mainly it's actually just this innate here. This innate is way too powerful. It allows you to gather Dahan. It then adds a fast vitality, and then it adds Dahan if you have more Dahan, and then the Dahan of extra health. This innate basically solves lands because it adds a fast vitality. Now, of course, there's like a blight restriction, but it's like you have 2 blight healings in the kit, and one of them is a fast blight healing card. And also, in order to hit this innate, you need to be playing these water cards. So it's like, oh, so you're telling me that if I play the card that matches this innate, I just get it and it combos with the innate? Like, oh, I need to heal the blight and then I can play Nourishing. But yeah, basically this is just a very cracked aspect. I think they wanted to make Earth overpowered, I guess, when making this aspect, and they for sure did. I don't really play this aspect. I don't think it's unfun. I just think it's too strong, and I try to stay away from it. Okay, so we talked about problems with Earth. We talked about the aspects. Let's talk about what I would do to fix Earth. So this is one of the spirits that I spent a lot of time trying to like fully revitalize, right? Pun intended. But it basically left me with 2 directions to take the spirit, and I'm going to talk about that now. So Gift of Strength, that's where a lot of power is. My first plan was, what if you just completely cut this out and you rename it, and well, not rename it, but I would keep the same name, but I would call it 3 Gifts of Strength. And then you would have a sun, you would have an earth, and then you'd have a plant. So you'd have 3 different tiers, and I would say each tier could target a different spirit. If you have 2 sun, target spirit gives +1 energy. You have 2 earth, target spirit gets +2 defend. This gets +2 defend and a land with their presence. If you have 3 plant, target spirit gains a minor card, or you can even say power card. So the purpose of this is lowering the overall. Well, this actually might be stronger in the long run, but it's 3 smaller actions with low thresholds, so it allows the player to hit them easier and also impact the board. It also keeps the support nature of Earth, because one of the things that I really liked of the 4 base game spirits is each one kind of had a different role. So like River and Lightning were more damage based in their approach, while Lightning was full damage, while River had some control elements. Shadows was way more control with its innate, and then they went and they added a support effect onto Earth, which is the last of the four original low complexities. So I really like that, and I wanted to keep that. Um, by doing this change over here, the three gifts of strength, is it, and when I say three gifts, you don't get to do this three times. That's just the name I'm calling it. Like, you basically can pick a target spirit for this part, a target spirit for this, a target spirit for this. It's not like you give this to three different spirits. That's way too overpowered. But um, the purpose of this is just to lower that floor to getting that innate, but also making the impact a lot less. Now, some may argue, oh, like +1 energy on a spirit is game breaking. And, like if things are fully optimized, it technically is. But is it more game breaking than repeating a major power? Um, so that would be like the first change that I considered. But then I would also rewrite pretty much the entire spirit. I really like Earth's Vitality, though, so I would keep this special rule. So I thought about this idea as a change, and then I said, you know what? I really like to just keep how Gift of Strength is. So let's just keep it as is, and we can modify everything else around it. So the first change that I would do is I would adjust the growth options. And the first thing I would do is I'd make this reclaim. I would change this to be 1 range and this to be 2 range. And the purpose of this is you want your reclaim on these spirits. So spirits that are always growing, you want the reclaim to not be that good. Okay. Um, the developers kind of recognize that. I think they did for the Nature Incarnates. Obviously, Gaze has a really powerful reclaim, but a lot of spirits, a lot of the 1/1s like Roots' reclaim is really awkward. Hearth Vigil's reclaim is also awkward because of the zero range presence placement. Even Dance's reclaim, well, that Dance is actually still pretty powerful reclaim, but it's a different spirit in a way. But I think the reclaim option needs to be weak, and having a 2 presence option on the reclaim, I think is just a little bit too strong. I then would make, in contrast, I would change this to 2 range. You could make it 1 range, but I think that might be too limiting. I'm not sure. This energy, not sure what to make of it. You could make it +3. You could also leave it as +2. I would say somewhere between 2 and 4 would be my target. The answer for this isn't, you don't know it until you've designed the tracks properly or until you've designed the cards, right? If you have a very expensive hand, you might need a higher energy on here. If your hand is less expensive, this energy needs to drop. And the purpose of that is to avoid the mistakes like they did with Sunbright, where you have that +4 energy button on a hand that costs so little, and you're basically just able to press this G2 once or twice, and then your energy economy is just fixed for the rest of the game. And maybe that's the point, maybe that's what they want, but I think if it's too high, that can be a problem. Now, the big change that I would do, and this might be too strong, I've never tested this, but something that I would like, is I would change this to gaining 2 power cards and placing a presence. So it does 2 things. It's going to fix the problem that Earth has, where it's not able to gain cards fast enough, find answers to solve the game. That's the first thing. 2, it also allows, it's a unique growth option that many spirits don't have, right? So the only spirit that gains 2 power cards on a growth option is Thunder Speaker right now. And it's funny, there's actually some crazy builds where you turn 1 reclaim. Not saying that that's what I would recommend on Thunder Speaker, but I've seen builds that do that. Earth, having it on a presence placement option, that might be way too good. I'm not sure. But I think if the Spirits kit is kept in check, where its cards aren't too strong, I think this could be pretty. I think it could be pretty balanced in a way. Especially with the presence being 0 range, and then here's your reclaim. Like, you're going to have to reclaim eventually, but I'm sure there's going to end up being someone that figures out a build that just keeps choosing G2, 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 and drafting like a million cards. But I'd like to at least see it played. Okay, so that would be what I would change with the growth options. As for the tracks, I was a bit torn on which way to approach it. So I spent a lot of time playtesting Roots and really working on the spirit. And one of the things I noticed with Hearth Vigil as well, mainly Roots, but then I think the developers recognized it could be played the same for Hearth Vigil, is when it comes to 1/1/1s, the ideal growth pattern is something where you have 1, then 2, then a blank, then 3, then a blank, than 4. And I think this is like the most, in quotes, balanced way of growing or growth pattern for 1/1/1s. I think Gaze is pretty close to that as well. Gaze is actually a little bit different, which I really like. I love that there's this dead space here. But then like you'll notice it's pretty much the same in how it's like empty space, card, empty space, card. Um, so here, Earth has that dead space and then has another dead space, but then eventually it reaches that 4 card place. I considered adjusting this track to looking like one of Roots or Hearth Vigil, right? Where it's basically one, two, two, three, three, four. And then this is essentially like maybe element, baby element. I'm not sure what it would be, but I thought about that. But every spirit is like that. And or a lot of the newer 1/1/1s are like that, and I kind of would rather avoid that. So I was thinking of alternative options. You could keep the 1/1/2. You could basically keep this, but you put an element here. Um, it really limits your growth options, or not growth options, but like the cards you're playing, because you really need to get to 2 card plays with these spirits to really impact the board. So it pretty much forces the spirit down bottom track, picking this energy to like afford cards. So the other option that I think that I'm leaning towards is actually something like this. Start with 2 cards, 2 cards, 2 cards, 3 cards, 3, 4. So I'm thinking like this. So essentially a double dead space on bottom track. The reason for this is it enables the player to go straight top track with 2 card plays without committing to bottom track. It also, now you might be saying, okay, well, that sounds pretty bad. Then rushing straight down bottom track would seem pretty bad because it'll take a while to actually get here. Well, this would probably be an element. So you'd make this an element instead. So it'd be 2/2, element 3, maybe an element, or leave this as a dead space, and then 4. And the idea is this element on bottom track is going to allow you to upgrade your innates a lot easier. Now I'm going to modify this innate as well when I get there, but this is kind of what I'm leaning towards, just to help push straight top track. And I think straight bottom track can also work, especially if your energy button is strong enough or your starting energy is pretty solid. That's just what I would go with. Likely what I would do is this second 2, I would make it an earth instead. So something like this. I should probably actually change the color to black here because I think that's probably better looking. Boom, boom, boom. So this is probably 2. This is 2. This is 3. Something like this, where you have 1 dead space, so you suck 1 turn, and then you'll have that earth, which hopefully will boost your innates properly, or your 1 innate. This is the approach I'm taking. Looking at top track, I think. In this, I spent less time thinking about this than I did bottom track. I think I would go something like 2/2. Now maybe I do 2/3/4. Maybe I just leave this the same. 2/3/4/6, and then make this something. Let's say I make this Earth as well. Not sure. You're an Earth spirit. Let's just make it an Earth. Maybe I do Earth and I make this a plant. Just vomit elements, just like how Ray hates it. one of Ray's biggest complaints with the Horizons, as well as the NI spirits, is there's just so much elements on the tracks. I'm on the fence. I mean, I actually kind of like it. I think the elements actually matter on these spirits. I think for Horizons, it's a little bit more just like in your face. Well, actually, maybe not. Yeah, there's quite a bit of elements, but this is probably the direction I would go with, just like spitballing with like very little commitment. I like 8 here. I mean, maybe you can make this. See, the thing is, if this 6 is an 8, I think you have real problems just going top, 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 and just being an 8/2 on turn 4. Like that's absurd. Yeah, it's probably too good. At least here you're at 1, 2, 3. So yeah, well, still turn 3 being at 6/2, especially with double growing. I mean, that's probably too good. I mean, when I say double growing, I mean getting 2 power cards. Like you get 2 power cards, get 2 power cards, get 2 power cards. But with only 2 card plays, it's going to be pretty much impossible to hit any thresholds, especially without any elements. So yeah, you know what? Maybe this actually works. Now, of course, you could just slam majors down left and right, but I think that's the whole purpose of the spirit. And then you also need to be growing outwards because of your growths. maybe this is supposed to be one range instead of two. Maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll make this. Maybe I leave both of them at one range for now, and then we make the energy +3. We just leave the energy at +2 because then bottom track can go energy, have the extra 2 energy down bottom track. Yeah, so I think this is what I'm going to go with the tracks for now, tracks and growths. Um, and then okay, so talk about the special rule. I really like defend 3. Um, I brainstormed many different options with how to adjust this special rule. I thought maybe you make it defend 3, and then you can add little areas on the tracks that would increase this passive defend by 1. I really like that because you could sprinkle them in across top track. Obviously, I wouldn't do this now that I also have a ton of other boosts. So like having like huge boosts as well, like sprinkled throughout the tracks as well with the defense. But that was one of the ideas I thought about. I also thought about like making it defend 3, but then also like a defend 1 per adjacent sacred site. So then you're incentivized to just like build up sacred sites next to each other so that they have this massive defense, which I think is pretty cool. Another thing I considered is like defend 5 in mountains and jungle, but then defend 3 in sands and wetland. So like it pushes the spirit more to defend specific terrain types, which I thought was pretty cool and like an idea that you could possibly explore for a low complexity spirit. Um, and that's something that I was like, because you have eyes, right, that explores jungle. You have Rising Heat that's mountain sands. So I think having this special rule get boosted in mountain jungle is something to really consider. Um, and the thing is, like I said, defend 3 is just a little bit too weak. If it's defend 4, defend 5, it might be too strong. I think where I would start, instead of like making this rule complicated, I would just keep it fresh and I would just make it defend 4. That defend 4 is important because it stops against explore town into the France matchup, and it also is important into Scotland with town cities on the coast. So this is essentially allows you to defend those lands passively. If you make this defend 5, it allows you to defend against 3 explorers into Russia 6. It also defends against Explorer Town City, which is like into every adversary. Defend 5 also stops against Town Explorer into Livestock, I think. 246. No, it does not. So that still goes through. So I would definitely make it defend 4. I would consider possibly adjusting it in other ways. And the last thing I was also considering for the special rule is I'd make it defend 3. And then if you have one of your tracks completely filled out, this gets +3. And then if you have both, it's +3 again. So it's plus, you have defend 9 in your lands, which is really busted, but that's also requiring you to have your entire tracks complete. That's 2, 4, 6, 8. That's turn 10. So like, is the game really going that long? Never. It really only becomes cracked when you introduce like prolifs and like hyper support, which I think is pretty cool. I think like when there's a ton of support going on, the players should feel overpowered. I think that's when the game is at its best, or most fun. Lightning, River, like everyone loves comboing these two spirits together, right? Well, I'm sure there's gonna be somebody that doesn't, but every player that I've met in person, and I've introduced this game to them and they got to see, oh wait, I can play my Boon of Vigor from River on my Lightning and Lightning goes crazy. They've always thought that was a fun interaction. And yes, Boon of Vigor is freaking overpowered, but players love that. And I think that should be allowed in game design. And so something like that I just mentioned where like, oh, you can make it where if the top track is fully cleared, you get +3 defense. Bottom track's fully cleared, you get another +3 defense. So that's another idea, but I think just having defend 4 right now is just it's a very safe change, and I would go from there. The other issue with what I just proposed about +3 is like now I've already talked about how going pure top track might be a problem, and now that just pushes that as a big problem as well. I think defend 4 just a slight boost to that special rule. Okay, so now the gift of strength. Oh, I should probably talk about the tracks again. So another thing with Earth is so I really think 5 card plays is like the gold standard of like what you're looking for card plays, but I don't think Earth should really reach that, especially when you're comparing it to the other low complexities. So both River and Lightning have 5 and 6. Shadows also has 5. So I think there needs to be a spirit that has a 4 card place, and that's why I think that's where Earth comes in. So that's why I think it should be at 4. Okay, so looking at the innate power, and I want to keep it the same, but I don't know how to modify the innate the threshold to where it's too easy to reach. It might be fine leaving it as is, especially when there's elements on the tracks like this, because every earth that you have on the track minimizes how hard it is to hit this innate. So maybe it's okay. Um, I would probably leave it the same at this point because I've modified the tracks. But if these elements come off the tracks, then I would also look at modifying the sedate and making it a little bit easier to hit. Also, talking about the cards. So that's another thing with this spirit. It's like, do you modify the cards? I think these cards are really awkward. I think rituals can create a bit of a trap. Um, the answer is I probably would. It's just hard to actually create a card from scratch, especially on the top of my head right now, and have it fit into this kit without extensive playing. Like if I'm gonna make a card right now, it's gonna be completely cracked, just because we need to actually see how it fits into the energy economy. I think the first thing I would do, I'd probably leave the skip in, just so that we have a skip on a low complexity spirit. I'd probably make this 2 energy. That'd be my first change. Help the energy economy there. Make that 2 energy. I would completely rework rituals just because it's very awkward in how it's triggering with the sacred site targeting Dahan. I wonder if, um, yeah, I don't know. So the reason why this is awkward is because it requires you to set up Dahan in a land, and you also need to set up 3 Dahan, and you need to be near a sacred site. And the only way for you to move Dahan is with fruitful. So it's just in order to get the payoff of this expensive unique, you need to play another card to set it up. And I think I get it why they originally did it because they wanted to combo these two together, but it doesn't actually play out well when you're trying it out. So I don't know how I would adjust this card. Oh right, this is the original idea I had. Um, you leave everything the same except you're checking the damage. So you get rid of this. So you just target a land, and then you're going to do 1 damage plus +1 damage. I should probably change yellow here, or we'll do white. +1 damage. I'm gonna make an X per Dahan in adjacent lands. In and adjacent lands. Oh gosh, this is so hard. Adjacent lands. There we go. So hard to write here. +1 per Dahan in adjacent lands. So the idea is you're playing this, it's doing 1 damage, and then if you have 3 Dahan among adjacent lands, you're getting the additional +3. So it actually is a bit of a hammer, and you still have all these crazy elements, so it's hitting your innates. I'm still leaving it at 3 cost because I want it to be expensive, but this is like my first draft of what I would have done. I can't remember, maybe it was 2 +1 per adjacent land. We'll leave it at 2. Let's make it cracked. Um, I like to lean on more overpowered stuff first, and then from there I would adjust accordingly based on how strong it is. So, like in this case, rituals. Like I have a sacred site here. Let's say they explore in town here. I play rituals on this land, and that would end up doing 5 damage. So it's actually probably too good. I'm looking at this because there's 3 adjacent on, so it'd be 2 +3, so 5. Yeah, so it's probably better off being 1. Just I'd first test it 1 energy or 1 damage, and then I would go from there. Um, Now it does cost 3 energy, which is pretty darn expensive, especially when you're only having 2 energy a turn. But then there's something like, oh, I could play rituals turn 1 plus another card, and then actually, if you play rituals plus fruitful turn 1, you're able to actually get a repeat, which is pretty powerful. Because these 2 cards turn 1 with how I've built things. You get that turn 1 repeat. You can repeat this to set up invaders. Hey, it might be really overpowered, but let's just keep it as is. Oh, I guess if you do that turn 1, then you're not drafting power cards, right? So yeah, you're kind of and that's what I want though. I want players to be able to decide, okay, do I want the energy to play this? It's probably energy play this, or immediately draft and try to dig for answers to build a plan. So, and that's one of the problems that I think a lot of spirits run into is I really want players to have a choice. Like you can also dig answers, go top track, go energy bottom track. Um, okay, so that's my change to rituals. I changed this to 2 energy. I'm leaving fruitful the same. This is a pretty good card. I mean, it's not broken. It's not absurd. I mean, I think the one change maybe you do is you actually reduce the power level of this just a bit, and you just say gather 3 Dahan. Oh, that's just you guys have no idea what I'm trying to write here. Basically, I'm trying to write this to say you gather up to 3 Dahan/explorers. So instead of gathering 2 explorers or 2 Dahan, it's 3 of ore. So you can maximize either or, but you don't get to do both. So it's slightly worse than 2 explorers, 2 Dahan, but it's better if you want to gather more Dahan, or it's better if you want to gather more explorers. That's probably the change I would do, but maybe that's just making a change to make a change. Okay, and then the last card, Guard the Healing Land. I have no freaking clue what to do with this card. Um, no idea. I definitely think this is the card I would like to rework completely. Like, I know I did that with rituals and these other cards, but I think the core of the card I want to stay the same. In a way, like I want this to be a damage boost. I want this to be a skip, a little bit cheaper skip. I want this to be a this maneuver card, but this card I don't know what it should be. I considered actually just getting rid of the defend and just making it a cheap blight healing card that's slow. Change this to 1 energy, slow power, remove a blight. Um, I don't know. Like you'd also have to rewrite the theme because this is guard the healing land, so it's like very thematic, right? You're healing the land, you're defending it. Um, I'm not sure. I think part of the spirit's problem is you have too much defensive tools and not enough actions. Maybe this becomes a support card. I know you already have a support card with Gift of Strength, but like maybe this card reads like pick a spirit. Like this says target any spirit. Target spirit removes a blight from one of their lands. So like similar to the actually yeah, it'd be similar to the freaking minor card that does that, right? That has the perfect elements. What is it called? It's the Sun Mountain plant card that's like nobody plays because it's expensive and it requires you to jump through a lot of hoops to actually activate. Where is it? There it is. Renewing Boon, right? Yeah, so choose a land where you and target spirit have presence, remove a blight, add a destroyed presence. I guess it's fine though. So yeah, that's probably what I would do. Like maybe make this 1 energy, remove 1 blight and target spirit's land, and then make this all slow. I don't know. I'm not sure what to do here. I just said I don't want it to be another healing card or another defensive card, but turn it into a support. Your hand is still freaking expensive, right? You're at 5, 6, 7 energy still. So the energy button is still worthwhile. Yeah, I think this is probably what I would start with. And I would just play a bunch of games with this and see how it plays and then go from there. I mean, absolutely stuff would get changed. This is like my first draft. Some of the decisions right here are just right off the top of my head. I mentioned so the elements would definitely need to get looked at. I'd probably look at this energy button. I'd look at maybe the elements here need to be changed. Possibly work the special rule if I want to make it more cool with emptying out a track. I really like the change to rituals. I like keeping the skip. I like having one of the original low complexities with the skip. I like fruitful, and then just changing this, either leaving it the same, modifying it. I really think modifying is the way to go. I'm just thinking if there's anything else that I would do. Oh yeah, I want to avoid adding a lot of Dahan movement, like passive Dahan movement in the kit. Some of the original designs I had of Earth was doing something that Hearth Vigil had, where it's like, oh, you have to gather a Dahan into a sacred site, and the idea behind that is to prevent Earth from having to use Fruitful to gather Dahan. Yes, like in the idea is you'd put that on the track somewhere. I mean, it can work, but I want to try to keep the spirit as low complex as possible. And I think this kind of still keeps that. I mean, obviously, there's still some changes like elements on tracks and more drafting, but I still think this is at its core very close to low complex. I think once you're adding like passive Dahan movement, I think it begins to kind of slip out of that. So this was a little bit longer video than the Shadows video, and that's because I put some time into Earth. I love this spirit. I love what it's doing. Oh yeah, so the aspects. Basically, all of the changes I talked about here, I would not implement into into any of these aspects. I mean, nourishing, like absolutely, I would not touch this. Like this is just so cracked, as is. Like in order to like make changes like this, like the spirit would need to get reworked. Resilience, it could actually basically be the same as this, just with all the other changes. I don't think it would really change. Might would be very interesting to see how it would play replacing this. It would actually be very cracked now that I think about it, because the biggest weakness with Might is your ability to draft early cards, and this like completely makes that easier with G2. And then you already start with extra card plays early on, so you could very quickly get to 3 card plays with a hand that's cheaper. Yeah, this could definitely get very dangerous. But yeah, so if you like this video, like and subscribe. Earth is done, Shadows is done. Lightning and River are the next two. I really want to tackle Lightning, but I actually think Lightning is close to perfect. So we'll talk about that in the next video.